She panted as she raced through the spires of the city, terrified beyond all means. The metal plating where her head was a heartbeat ago implodes as something slams through it. Then comes the blast of sound from a distance. It had haunted her for days. Something was hunting her, something that used what could only be an experimental weapon. Railguns aren't this accurate. Lasers can't get 100th the range, and plasma wouldn't even be a spark at this insane distance. 10 years she's been the most badass bitch in 4 systems. She had 10 million on her head with a flea on sight warning. She had thought leaving heads and the flayed open bodies as public display would scare hunters away. She thought wrong. Only her axiom training was keeping her alive. The temporal way, ramping up danger, sensing instinct beyond any capacity of biology. Most used it to cheat at card games, fight like a tornado, or clean up in casinos. Now it was barely keeping her alive. She staggered and fell to her knees, forcing out as much of the burning hot air from her system as she could. She was boiling alive in her fur. Whatever was after her was... Her every neuron screams at her, and she rolls to the side to avoid whatever it was slamming through the floor where she'd been standing. The boom arrives a heartbeat later. Whatever's hunting her is closing in. Down the alleyway, her instincts scream, and she dives away and into a building. The thing slams through the floor, and the bang follows from the opposite direction. What is even going on? How many are hunting her? She can barely think, barely remember her own name through the heat. She crashes through the nearest door and falls to the ground, covered in grime and grit, as she tries to cool down. She can't hear over her heartbeat. Her instincts howl for her to be still, and she doesn't even breathe. A plasma sword is being held right behind her head. "Game set, match," a deep bass voice says, and she sucks in a deep breath of the dusty air. "Alive or dead, your choice." "Who are you?" she demands, and there's a low chuckle. "I'm the man cashing in 10 million credits today, that's who I am." She's been caught. She's been caught by a man of all things. A man! A stupid, pampered, baby-making brat. She kidnapped and sold more men than some girls had kills. The sound of a door slamming open and something rushing in with a hard stomp, possibly hooves. One of hers? Holy shit, dude, she's ready for doggy style. A low voice says as one of her arms is grabbed and her face is forced into the floor by the back of a boot. The sword follows and stays just close enough for her to feel the warmth of the magnetically contained plasma blade. "Keep it in your pants. We're on the job." The one holding her at sword point says, as her grabbed arm is put in a binder followed by the other one being grabbed and bound as well. It's over. She can feel it. These are not only stronger cuffs, but an explosive kind. Any funny stuff, and her hands at the very least are so much shredded meat. Never mind her back and spine. "Hey, relax, I'm just calling it like I see it. I don't stick it in crazy." The second voice says before the plasma blade is pulled away, and she's hefted upwards. She looks to her left and then down. It's a man, a Tret. A cybernetic Tret that's had his left eye and arm replaced. In black, clearly armored clothing and a bandana around his face that has the lower half of a skull-like design on it. She turns and regards the one behind her. He has an enormous gun on his back with a series of huge shells across his chest. The door is slammed open again and a third Tret walks in. All of them are wearing the same black armor and skull motif. They're in uniform. "Where's Tang?" the second one asks. "Coming, there's heavy traffic in his quadrant." The third says, looking her up and down, "It's a miracle I didn't blow a hole in this idiot when she's that big." "Stow it. We gossip when we've got our money." The sword-wielding one says as she pants to try and regulate her heat. The sword wielder has a plasma cannon strapped to his back. The second might be some kind of demolitions expert, but the third has a massively long weapon strung to his back. For a few minutes they wait before a fourth joins them. "Sorry about the wait. I'll explain later." The newest one says, "He's got a massive long gun like the third one and arrived from the opposite direction. That'll be interesting." The first one says before putting the plasma blade almost into her face, "You give us any trouble and you're eating the blade one non-vital organ at a time. Understood?" The man snarls with a hatred she's only ever heard from hardened killers. "Yes," she says simply, and he nods. "Good. Move." He orders, and she's pulled by the one with the bombs as both long-ranged attacker pull out plasma pistols and point them at her. Great. She's strapped to a bomb, inches away from a plasma sword and with pistols aimed at her torso. This isn't the worst situation she's ever been in, but she can't think of the one that topped this. The moment she's outside, an air car drops out of the sky and re-engages its anti-gravity just in time to avoid slamming into the ground. Nice going, air farce. The last one to arrive states to the driver, who's also a tret man in the black and bones uniform of the others, "Fuck you too." The driver responds, pulling a lever, and the storage compartment of the open-top vehicle pops open. But not before she spots what looks like surveillance gear in the seat next to the driver. So that's how they did it. Eyes in the sky. An indirect threat. She's forced into the compartment and almost face-to-face with a bomb. The words, "Just try it," are stenciled on the side. She goes very, very still as it slammed shut, and a few moments later the air car takes off at an almost absurd speed that causes the bomb to bounce ever so. Something else bounces into her, and it's another bomb with "I dare you" stenciled on it. Several minutes later, and the car pulls into a smooth stop. The trunk is opened, and before she can make a lunge for it, she sees both of the long-range warriors with their plasma pistols out and pointed at her. She's forced from the compartment and marched into a bounty station. Inside is a small army of officers waiting for her with a case for the bounty hunters. The cyborg takes the case and sets it upon a table to check the content. Hundreds of silver-hued Axiom Ride credit discs. A fortune bathed in a multi-hued glow of their own refraction. "There are too many discs. The bounty is 10 million. You are offering us 15. The leader says with a clear question in his voice. "The bounty was for her corpse. You've given us the privilege of executing her ourselves. The central office feels such exceptional work requires exceptional pay," one of the officers states. The leader of the group sniffs audibly, pulls out one of the 3 rows of 50 and dumps it onto the table carelessly. "We take the agreed-upon pay. No more, no less. The prisoner is yours." The leader says as he closes the case and picks it up. She's shoved forward, past the 5 million that's apparently just being thrown away and into the waiting arms of the law. A stun cannon hits her full in the face, and she knows only her cell when she awakens. After the terrorist is taken away, the hunters sheathe their weapons and leave without another word. They pile into the air car and take off. "So how'd it go?" Air Farce asks. "Well enough. They tried to pay even more than we thought, though." Pukey responds as he resists the urge to rub his cyber eye. "By how much?" 15 million credits, Tang says from the back seat. "Get the fuck out!" Air Farce replies, turning to look back. "Fucking traffic!" The munitions expert Itchy screams. "Relax!" Air Farce counters without turning back. "Traffic!" Tang hollers, pointing at an oncoming automatic transport pod. "Are you soldiers or drama queens?" Air Farce asks as the massive self-driving tanker misses them by meters. "We were never in any danger. Stuff the shit and get back to the ship." Pukey orders and Air Farce nods. "Yay, boss," he says, and they start to climb further and further. They break the cloud line and zoom into a still opening door on the chain breaker, nearly scraping all 4 sides as everyone but Air Farce ducks. The door pauses as if confused before closing behind them. "You guys seriously need to chill. Take a shit or something. All that clenching can't be good." "Fuck you, Air Farce," the last sniper says. "That's your mother's job, J3. He volleys back immediately as he puts the car through its shutdown, and it lands with a soft thump. "Anyways, if you girls are done bitching at me for doing my job, I'm going to wash this pheromone blocker off me before it goes solid and I turn into a wax statue or something. God forbid the adrenaline junkie have to sit still for 2 minutes." Pukey mutters as he climbs out. They all troop down to the nearest shower chamber and soon enough peeling off the thick layer of gunk from themselves. Some of them outright peel it off in chunks as it melts under the hot water. "Hey, I didn't get any fucking shampoo. Who's got extra?" Tang shouts over his stall and something clonks off a wall. "You missed!" he shouts before whoever's in the stall next to his tosses it over. "Thanks!" A quarter of an hour later, and all 5 men barely have time to slump down into the operations center and get comfortable before the door opens. "Mr. T, the hat, bike, dong, mustard. Glad you could make it." Pukey greets them, and they all find their own seating as they pass out some mason jars filled with moonshine around. "All those nicknames are so weird," a high-pitched voice says before a tiny Kobe in a doctor's coat climbs into Pukey's lap. You'll always be my Gregory, no pukey from me, she says, cuddling into her much larger man. Oh, love you too, Cindy, Pukey says with a smile. Someone holds up a camera, and he reflexively flips them off. Thankfully, he hasn't opened his moonshine, otherwise he'd be spilling it. You know, it's only kind of hitting me now that I only know you guys by your nicknames, and it's bugging me, a young voice says as a teenage Great Plains Nagasha slithers in. The right side of his face is a brutal patchwork of scars with a cybernetic eye, and he has numerous cybernetic fingers on his hands, having only the thumbs left. He's conservatively covered up by a turtleneck sweater, and his hair is clearly growing back after having it hacked off. He's one of the people rescued from the chaining when they took control of it. Oh, really? Pukey wonders before thinking. I'm positive I gave you at least my name. The rest of us did too, kid, but you were still in recovery at the time. Maybe the drugs made you too dopey to recall. J3 notes as he thinks. Yeah, all I remember of that time was a lot of blurriness and the pain stopping. Then when I came out, I knew you all by the weirdest names, Scaly says. I also know I told you to call me Scaly for some reason. Okay, Scaly, my proper name is Gregory Schmidt. I'm called Pukey because when I was in basic and told I'd run till I puked, I messed with my guts until I upchucked and asked if that was fine. It wasn't. Boratang here. I'm the only one not known by a nickname because they can't find anything funnier than my actual name, Tang says. Shut up, Sip, J3 says, and Tang shakes his head. See, just doesn't flow as well. And I am Joshua Joseph Johnson III. J3 is just easier to say. Rico Bravo, present and accounted for, they call me Air Farce because I was in the military longer than most of these clowns and was a pilot then and am a pilot now. I know where I fit in. Air Farce introduces himself with a toast towards the formerly abused Nagasha boy. I'm Terrence Brown. They call me Itchy because I'm always eager to make my latest project go boom. It's just beautiful to see the flames go up, he says, pulling out a lighter and examining the momentary flame before tucking it away. Samuel James here. They call me Mr. T because I vaguely resemble a celebrity called Mr. T and am British, which is one of the bigger tea-drinking countries on Earth, he says before taking a sniff of his mason jar full of moonshine. Could do with a proper cuppa, to be honest. Right, well, while his ancestors left the homelands, mine stayed put. I'm Bongani Chabalal. They call me the Hat because I'm never not wearing one, as you can see. Also, they keep mangling my actual names, the Hat says, poking the white fedora he's rocking with a smile. They can at least pronounce the Hat most of the time, at least. I suppose I'm up next as Mustard, or rather, Elof Rashid. I like the taste of mustard, and there's not much more to it. People latch on to the weirdest things. Doesn't mean you don't have a 3-year supply, Mr. T remarks. Because you clowns keep hiding mustard in my things, I'm just thankful you keep them in their packages. Mustard remarks coolly. To get off that topic, they call me Dong, because my last name is Ding. My first name is Bernard. Nothing fancy here. Dong remarks with a shrug as he lights up a cigarette and takes a puff. That's some good shit. And I'm last, it seems. Drake Engel, also known as Bike. I was a smartass in basic as well and compared running a marathon to riding a bike. It was a stupid comparison and no one has let me forget it. Bike remarks calmly. I don't get you all. Why are nicknames so important? Scaly asks as he slithers into an empty couch and curls in on himself. We like them, nothing more. I mean, hell, you held out giving us your name for a while, Slithern. J3 remarks, not all names translate well into galactic trade. Fair enough. God only knows what they think of my name in it, the Hat says with a chuckle as the possibilities run through his head. Hey, it's time, Cindy notes, and the display is turned on. Thank God we bagged that crazy when we did. Letting her have a break to catch this would have been a seriously bad move, Itchy remarks. I'm almost disappointed. I wanted to be on shift to drag that psycho in myself. Mustard mopes somewhat as he throws his legs over the armrest. You went through 4 6-hour shifts hounding her. You get as much credit as any of us, Tang remarks. Cork it, it's starting. Pukey rebukes them all. A bugling jingle. The title centrist Station 5. The galaxy's greatest news flies across the hologram in luminescent silver. The image changes to a silver-skinned alien with large, pitch-black eyes and a single antenna sticking upwards. The tip of the antenna glows bright yellow. Hello? This is Shimmer Nova here on the beautiful centrist capital Spire, where the Dauntless, an ambassadorial ship shrouded in mystery, is coming in for a landing. Hailing from deep inside cruel space, the people of this ship have had a harrowing journey. Multiple pirate attacks and even the infamous chaining have all left their mark on this beast of a vessel. Yet through it all, the men crewing this ship have stayed firm and strong, she says into her microphone. The view switches to her side, and she turns to face the camera as the Dauntless is slowly coming down behind her. "That's right. I said men," she says before leaning to her left, as half the screen is taken up by an image of Admiral Cistern standing at attention. "According to reports, this species, a classic bipedal mammal omnivore, are truly unusual in their birth rates, and this ship reflects it. It's crewed almost exclusively by men. We have here an image of the stalwart champion serving as both commanding officer and chief ambassador, one Admiral Garfield Cistern, and according to the records they've shared with us, he's a lifelong military man with trouble at home. This poor man has been abandoned by his only wife, and is once again a bachelor with no one to comfort him on a harrowing journey further than he ever dreamed possible. Apparently, she also took the children with her and a great deal of his personal fortune. A tale of tragedy and woe apparently common in the most appropriately named cruel space. Hamming it up like a bitch. J3 notes, and Airfarce starts chuckling before Mr. T shushes them. But don't think it's all doom and gloom. We've got some lightspeed action as well. While the Dauntless was victimized by the chaining, it turned out that the prize was too hot to handle, and not only has the infamous vessel's crew been cut down by the very man they stole, but the ship itself was hijacked and renamed the Chainbreaker after the captured soldier, one Gregory Schmidt, successfully led a slave revolt. The Chainbreaker is now a registered bounty hunting vessel last seen in the Yurun system, and... She pauses and tilts her head to the side. This just in... Apparently, the Chainbreaker crew was successful in their hunt in the Irwin system, as notorious criminal and mass murderess Haley, the Flayer Tuft, has been turned in for her bounty by Gregory Schmidt and a small team of other humans. Apparently, they even refused the bonus for bringing her in alive, despite it being a hefty 5 million credits. What incredible skill! What impossible integrity! "You guys gave up 5 million credits?" Scaly demands, and there's a chuckle. "Kid, we couldn't buy the goodwill we just got for 50 million credits. It was worth it," Mustard says, and there's approving nods all around. "Damn right now, be damn quiet. There's more." Bike rebukes them. "I, for one, welcome our new handsome heroes here into the galaxy at large. Hopefully they'll consider sweeping some of my sisters off their feet. Poor girls aren't as lucky as their celebrity sister." Nova preens in front of the camera as the Dauntless lands with a minor boom. No doubt someone deep inside the ship is getting dragged over the coals for that one. "Oh, and here comes the Speaker of the Council herself, Lady KyleKKent. A word for our viewers, please," Nova gushes, rushing up to what looks like a cross between a peacock and a woman, which is just baffling to the men on the chaining. "I mean, yay, it looks pompous enough, but peacocks are cocks, not hens," Itchy protests. "Next person to talk gets shot, fair warning," Tang threatens as he holds a pistol out for everyone to see. The hat flips him off as a matter of principle. "This is our first formal contact, little reporter. We must set aside our expectations and let this new race shine through as best they are able," Lady KKKent gently notes before looking out above the silver-hued alien to the chrome-covered Dauntless. The central door opens and a massive ramp extends downwards. Then a huge stomp echoes out, followed by another and another. The fourth reveals a line of men in stark white dress uniform. Their every second step is a massive stomp in unison as they march out 50 men across, rifles clearly visible as they stomp down, looking for all the world like an invading army. The reporter is utterly flabbergasted and fails to make any commentary as thousands of troops march out of the Dauntless before stopping on a single massive stomp less than 5 meters away. Then the massive column seamlessly splits into two groups and places their rifles in parade rest position. Then, the Admiral appears, flanked by 2 honor guards and marching at a fast clip down the ramp. Every soldier he passes snaps off a salute that stays up until he passes before finally stomping to a stop some 2 meters from Lady KyleKKent. "Lady KyleKKent, Speaker of the Galactic Federation Council?" he asks in flawless galactic basic. left hand on the hilt of a ceremonial saber, and the metals gleaming on his chest like stars, backlit by the light shining off the dauntless, and with the rows upon rows of soldiers behind him, he looks like he's nothing less than the living embodiment of modern war. Yes, and you are Admiral Garfield Cistern, representative of humanity and Admiral of the Earth Defense Fleets? Lady KyleKKent asks slowly, somewhat off balance by the sheer presence of the man. She can see clean over his head, but the sensation of being at the foot of a giant has her off balance. Yes, I am, ma'am. I am also the Admiral of the Earth Foreign Legion as well. A small fleet of mercenary vessels we have hired to help ease our transition into a galactic people. Admiral Cistern says before turning around. Excuse me a moment, companies at ease. He barks, and the entire formation shifts as one. That's better. Now, are there any questions before we get to our negotiations proper? He asks, turning back in a smooth motion. Hello, I'm Shimmer Nova from Centris Station 5 Galactic News. How many men do you have? In formation right now, we have 2,000 men exactly. As you've no doubt noticed, this formation is wider at the front at 50 men across and 40 men long. There are over 3,000 additional personnel on the Dauntless currently, the vast majority of them men. Does that suffice, Miss Nova? You just... Wait. Dear Goddess, you've increased the male population on Centris by 25%. Nova gasps in shock. Really? I would have expected a substantially larger number among the local populace. Technically, dear Admiral, the embassies to the representatives count as belonging to the world in question, and many of the larger corporations maintain their main offices in orbit around the world to prevent overcrowding, Lady KyleKKent offers, and he nods. And those would be where the husbands of such important individuals are housed, I assume? You assume correctly. Now, as much as I would adore continuing in the presence of this entire fascinating procession, they are rather numerous for your official entrance into the chamber of debate and discussions. I understand. Excuse me a moment, he says, turning on his heel and marching away past his bodyguards and a previously unseen man who had been trailing the trio. Companies, attention! He bellows, and 2,000 boots slam into the ground next to their respective twins. Companies, fall out! He roars, and they turn as one, pick up their rifles, and march back onto the ship. When the last line of men crosses the final threshold, the ramp retracts before the massive chrome doors close. The Admiral turns on his heel and marches back up to Lady KyleKKent. I trust that will suffice, he says, holding his left hand out to the side. The fourth man, who had gone largely unseen, slinks up behind him and places a cigar in his hand, which he sniffs before sticking between his teeth. The elderly yet formally attired servant then lights the cigar, and the Admiral takes a deep puff of it. Thank you, Philip. Of course, sir. Philip replies before vanishing back behind the bodyguards as a steady stream of smoke is exhaled from the Admiral's nostrils, and he smiles. He's got the entire galaxy's undivided attention and knows it. Now then, shall we? The Admiral asks, gesturing with his cigar. Nova is staring directly at him in shock and awe before noticing that the camera is still rolling. Commercial! Cut to commercial! She orders, and the feed indeed cuts to commercial. Around the galaxy, nearly a dozen different briefing rooms explode in cheers. It needed some improv, but had gone off flawlessly. Poor stupid bastards, Tang says with a grin. I know, right? What are we missing? Cindy asks, and Pukey gives her an affectionate squeeze. They just invited 4 of our most decorated and capable agents right into the very heart of their government. Every one of those monsters is a world-class spy, field operative, or tactician. Now we get to see how world-class stacks up against the galaxy. What? Scaly asks in shock. Admiral Cistern is the man who straight up wins in warfare. If it's down to tactics and logistics, then he's the winning team every time. Those 2 men with the guns behind him? Their names are redacted, but we've seen the records. They're anti-army specialists in asymmetric warfare, capable of destabilizing nations. That last guy, Philip, he's an assassin. They've invited the fox into the henhouse. What? Scaly asks again, confused at the metaphor. They're the prey, and they've invited predators into their midst. Unclench, Pukey. They have the training and experience, but the goal is peaceful integration and mutual benefit. The knives only come out when someone tries to screw with us. Air Force protests. Which is a matter of when, Not if. The hat remarks. Yay, unfortunately. Airfarce concedes.